in another story that we have this morning, we're talking about the prevalence of Black and Hispanic children in the United States being diagnosed. And just yesterday, in the GAMA network, they published a study saying that, isn't it interesting that there's been a 40% increase in the number of Black and Hispanic children in the United States diagnosed with autism, a 40% increase since 2014. Now, there's so many things I'd like to say here and so many tantrums I would like to throw. But here we get into the controversy about, do we think that more children on the autism spectrum, more Black and Hispanic children have autism than in 2014, or do we think that more of them were diagnosed? Because this is the argument that always divides the community. What do you think, Nancy?
I think that it's more children have autism, more Black and Hispanic children have autism. I don't think this is a result of increased diagnosis.
Okay, and this is part and parcel of why it becomes so hard, because even when we talk about just the general population, for instance, over the years, people have charted and said, well, in 1980, this is what the prevalence of autism was. And then they say, here's what it was in 1990, and here's what it was in 2014, and here's what we project it to be in 2020, which nobody even has the numbers for that yet. But we see a sharp incline, right? And then we segment off into different things, and people say, no, those people always had autism. It's just that they changed the diagnostic criteria, or more people had access to the diagnosis. It is not increasing. And other people say, no, we're being better at diagnosing. And it becomes particularly poignant when I think we're talking about the Black and Hispanic communities, because we know for a fact that these communities are underserved. Mm-hmm. We know that. And so I think a lot of times people get caught up in that and go, well, we're fine at diagnosing these individuals, but there are a lot of people in the autism community. And I think, I'm at least halfway there that suspect that if we were to diagnose everyone who it actually is on the spectrum and to give equal services, we would find that the prevalence for individuals in these communities is higher, is significantly higher than it is in the Caucasian community. And that this is a catastrophic failure on the part of our medical community, that in so many ways, we don't give services to people that need it, that we've covered this on the show recently, that, a mother going in and saying, my child, you and I both know, even as white women, how hard it was to get our doctor to listen to us when we were saying something's up with my child. But we're hearing that studies are showing that if you are a Black or a brown woman going in, you're less likely to be heard. And then your child is less likely to be diagnosed, which means you're less likely to get services. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching, especially when we suspect that your child is more likely to be on the spectrum if they are Black or brown, which is, just beyond devastating. Somebody says, as a Hispanic woman and a mother of Black children, I think it's both. I'm with you. I think it's both as well.
That's
what's that?
Johanny.
Yes. We don't need to say whole names on the show. We're saying hello to Johanny. We're saying hello to Amanda, Nasser, Christina, and Sam. We're so happy you guys are here with us.
Good morning.
So, we need for our politicians to hear that there is this increase. And regardless of what we think it might be, we need to have more funding. So it becomes incumbent upon us when we say to ourselves, what am I to do about this? Those of you who have young kids are in the middle of therapy, maybe don't have as much to do. But Nancy, I think it's incumbent upon those of us like us that our kids are a little bit older, that you're much better about this than I am. We need to be meeting with our politicians. We need to be making them aware of it. We need to be volunteering for them so that they get to know our face so that we can be heard. That when we say to them, I need your help and support on this, that they see us as constituents who are helping them as well. I hate it that it has to be that way, but I think that's the crux of it. Nancy, do you agree?
I agree. And I think we're at the point where many of our politicians are personally affected. I know when I spoke to Mayor Garcetti at a fundraising event, he said he had a nephew on the spectrum, and the same with Governor Newsom. He has a family member, I think through marriage, that's on the spectrum. So they were both very aware when I spoke to them about some of the issues. They were both aware. And, it's just a byproduct of more and more kids being diagnosed now and the prevalence rising, that we're going to see politicians that are personally affected.
Yes. I think that we need to hold them accountable, though, with their funding, that they make sure. I'm always afraid now, because that I love Dr. Stephen Shore, who says when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And I think that we've all had that experience of having, I remember we had a teacher that, they were trying to figure out which teacher to put my son in whose class the following year. And they said, oh, we're going to give you to teacher X because she has a family member who's on the autism spectrum, right? And normally you would be like, woo, somebody who's going to get it. But I've learned that sometimes that means they get it even less because they think that everybody is like their family member. They don't get it. And in that instance, this was a teacher who had two family members that were on the spectrum, had only met them once, and was passing herself off as an autism expert. So I think that we have to put our kids in front of politicians and let them know, tell them the stories, that all of our kids are not the same. And we need to tell the stories of the families that are greatly impacted by autism, and tell them equally the success stories that if you give, funding to this, some of these kids, will go and do this. We need to be telling them the stories. So I'm going to vow that I'm going to be better and take a page out of Nancy's book, because Nancy takes the time to go and meet with these folks. I don't. I say things about them behind their back, both good and bad. But I don't put on heels and go to the luncheon, Nancy, like you do. But that's where stuff gets done.
Right.
And so as we come out of COVID, Nancy, I'm gonna make a vow that I'm gonna go with you to some of those things.
Okay, let's do it.
We can be the Lucy and Ethel of autism again. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.